Have you ever just stopped and thought about how we all got here? I mean, not just you and me, but all of us, moving across entire continents, building massive cities. It really all comes down to one thing: our constant, nagging desire to conquer distance. So let's dive into the incredible story of how we went from dusty footpaths to 8-lane freeways. So here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at that basic human need to just move. Then we'll get into the big three: wheels, animals, and roads, and see how they kick-started civilization. After that, we'll see how the engine just changed everything. Then we'll cover how the world truly got put on wheels. And finally, we'll ask the big question: what's next?
All right, part one, the quest to move. This is really about that fundamental problem that got this whole ball rolling in the first place.
I mean, really think about this. For almost all of human history, this was it. This was reality. If you wanted to get somewhere, your entire world was basically limited by how fast your own 2 feet could carry you. Maybe, if you were lucky, how fast an animal could. That simple fact shaped literally everything about the ancient world.
You know, at its core, this is all we're talking about. Seems so simple, right? The movement of stuff from one place to another. But figuring out how to do this better is what allowed for everything else: trade, empires, the spread of ideas. Every single thing we're going to look at is just a better answer to this one basic challenge.
So how did we first crack the code? Well, the answer came in a trio of revolutionary ideas that became the foundation for everything to come. We tamed animals, we invented the wheel, and we figured out we needed something better than a muddy path to use them on.
Now, what's so cool about this timeline is how it all fits together. Look at these dates. First, around 4000 BC, we start using animals like horses for transport. Then, just 500 years later, boom, the wheel shows up in Mesopotamia. And we're talking simple, solid discs of wood here. But almost right away, people realized that wheels get stuck in the mud, which led to the very first paved roads. See? They weren't separate inventions. They were all evolving together.
And this slide just perfectly shows the before and after. Before the wheel, your economy was limited by what a single person or a donkey could carry on its back. Long-distance trade? Forget it. It was painfully difficult. But after the wheel, you could suddenly move immense loads of grain, stone, you name it. This wasn't just a small step up. It was a total revolution that literally fueled the growth of the first great empires.
And of course, you can't talk about early roads without talking about the Romans. They were the absolute masters. They knew that to move an army, you need a road that's not going to turn into a swamp after a little rain. They built them in layers with deep foundations, engineered for drainage. I mean, some are still around today. It just proves this timeless rule of transportation. Better vehicles always demand better infrastructure. True for a Roman chariot, and it's just as true for the car in your driveway.
And that brings us to the next great leap. For thousands of years, everything was powered by muscle, right? Human or animal. But then, a couple hundred years ago, we found a whole new kind of power that would completely remake the planet: the engine.
Now, the invention that really set personal transportation free was the internal combustion engine. Specifically, this 4-stroke cycle perfected back in 1876. It's this beautifully simple 4-step dance: suck, squeeze, bang, blow. Or, intake, compression, power, exhaust. In that power stroke, a tiny, controlled explosion shoves a piston down. That simple, repeatable little act of violence was light enough and powerful enough to bolt onto a carriage, create the first horseless carriage, and, change everything.
But here's the wild part. The gasoline engine wasn't the only game in town, not by a long shot. At the turn of the 20th century, it was actually a 3-way fight for the future. You had steam, the old reliable, but it was heavy and took forever to get going. You had electric, which was quiet, clean, and super easy to use. And then you had the new kid on the block, petrol. Noisy, dirty, smelly, but it had way better range and power.
Okay, get ready for this, because this might be the most surprising fact of this entire explainer. By the year 1900, a full 1/3 of all cars in the United States were electric. 1/3! We think of EVs as this futuristic thing, but they had a massive head start over a century ago. It just makes you wonder what our cities would look like now if things had gone a different way.
And they were seriously popular. They were marketed to women because they didn't have that dangerous, arm-breaking hand crank to start them. Even Henry Ford's wife, Clara, drove an electric car. She preferred it. They were used as taxis in New York, ambulances, even fire engines in Berlin. So, what went wrong? Well, the reasons are going to sound hauntingly familiar. Limited range and super long charging times. Gasoline, which you could refuel in minutes, won out, and the electric car basically went to sleep for 100 years.
So with the electric car taking a long nap, the winner of that three-way race, the noisy, powerful gasoline car, was finally ready to take over the world and create the age of the automobile.
And this is pretty much ground zero, 1885. A guy named Carl Benz straps his brand new engine onto a little three-wheeled cart. This thing, the Benz Patent Motor Wagon, is widely considered the first real car. It was the proof of concept that started it all.
But the guy who really put the world on wheels wasn't Carl Benz. It was this guy, Henry Ford. And here's the key thing to understand about him. His real genius wasn't inventing the car itself. It was inventing a way to make it so cheap that almost anyone could buy one.
And this number is the result of that genius. 15 million. Just try to wrap your head around that. That's how many Model Ts they built. It's a number so big it literally reshaped our world. It created the suburbs, the road trip, and this whole new idea of personal freedom.
So how on earth did he do it? The moving assembly line. By perfecting that process, he just crushed the time and cost it took to build a car. Just look at this price chart. It goes from $850, which was a ton of money back then, all the way down to $260. All of a sudden, a car wasn't some toy for a rich guy. It was a tool for the average family.
And it was really during this era that the car as we know it today came into being. All the wild, chaotic early designs started to settle into one standard formula. Engine in the front, comfy rubber tires, an actual steering system, and an enclosed steel body instead of an open-top carriage. The blueprint for the 20th century car was officially set.
Which brings us to our final section, the road ahead. We've seen the whole journey of how we got here, but where are we going next?
What a ride, huh? When you step back and look at it, every single leap forward, from the first person to follow an animal trail, to the Roman road builders, from the wheel to the engine, it didn't just change how we got around. It changed everything. It reshaped our societies, our cities, our entire planet.
And that really leaves us with this final thought. We went from muscle power to steam to gasoline. Now we're kind of circling back to electricity. We're talking about cars that drive themselves and who knows what else. That basic human quest to overcome distance, it never ever ends. So what do you think we'll use for our next great journey?